claiming only that recreational drug use on the increase in Australia, or he was claiming
I see your point.
Sentence.
Yeah, I think the way it's worded, I think the second claim is Henderson.
Yeah, only that one.
Yeah, the way I read that is the writer's voice is the first sentence, and then this trying to bring in evidence of this, which is inappropriate, but that's Henderson there. Yeah.
So Henderson was saying only the harassment.
Yes. Yeah, and that brings up the point of when you're writing and you're using your in-text, sometimes
how should I put
it's hard to, I guess the key is putting your in-text as close as possible to the evidence that you're referring to, you know, that it refers to. Yeah. Even things like, the other way to make that sort of thing clear, for example, according to Henderson, recreational drug use is on the increase. Now that would then make it clear, wouldn't it? So, author prominent, this is information prominent. And as you say, it's a little bit ambiguous. Is all of that information Henderson or not? So, using author prominent could get you out of that problem. Because then we separate your voice as the writer to, according to Henderson, that's the bit that Henderson believes. That would be the best way. So think about that. Generally, it is a problem I notice in essays. So use your author prominent to split your thinking from your evidence that you're quoting.
But maybe his evidence, his opinion is support to my argument.
Yeah, sure. That's why you'd use it. Absolutely. But there's a difference between evidence and your argument.
I see.
Yeah. So he might or she might be providing the data, but may not be exactly arguing what you're arguing. But the evidence is useful for your argument. That's a separate thing. 16. What do you guys think of number 16?
We have decided that here have place of overgeneralization and loaded words.
Yeah, certainly loaded words. What sort of words do you feel were too strong?
Horrendous.
Yeah.
And demoralized, maybe.
Yeah. Demoralised not too bad, depends how it's being
But horrendous
used.
is obvious.
But horrendous is the real problem. It's far too strong. It's just one of the most intense words you can use. Yeah, now, so fine, yeah, loaded words. What about the overgeneralisation bit? What do you think there?
Majority in the community doesn't support any evidences.
Right, there's no evidence there for that claim, is there? So it is an unsubstantiated claim. The majority, let's get the figure, 86% according to Hudson 2014. None of that's there, so it's unsubstantiated. Let's imagine it was substantiated. Hudson 2014 says 86% of people don't support gay marriage. All right.
But if it will be 51%, it's still majority.
Yep. Okay. Yep. It could be, as you say, 50.3,
Yes.
51, whatever. Okay. Now, or 96 or 86, whatever. It's a majority. Okay. Now, is that okay to use as evidence for your argument? The majority of people believe this, therefore it is good.
No.
All right. What does this remind you of?
Anecdotal, kind of?
Not anecdotal, because anecdotal involves one or two people. You've actually got the figure. 96% of people.
What about the rest of the 4%?
Hmm?
What about the 4%? So I think it's not all right.
Yeah, look, you can always talk about rights of minorities. That's an interesting point. That's it. Appeal to popular belief. Just because majorities believe something, 51%, 96%, doesn't necessarily mean that it's morally correct, or doesn't mean it's true. You know, 66% of people could believe climate change is not happening. Does that mean climate change is not happening? Not necessarily. We have to go to the scientific data, don't we? So, majority opinion won't prove anything. Either descriptively, so scientific evidence, or even prescriptive, morals, whether something's moral or immoral, that has to be argued for different reasons. In the early 19th century in America, the majority of people, if you said, is slavery okay, they would have said, yeah, no worries. Today we think it was immoral. So, you know, majorities don't necessarily mean that something is moral or not. So it's an appeal to popular belief, exactly how. So even if you did have the data, you've still got this problem. All right, so data and evidence and all of that, I've been emphasising that a lot, but sometimes that's still a problem. If your basic nature of your argument is one of those fallacies and you're using evidence to support a fallacious claim. Does that make sense?
But you know, this fallacy make our task is very hard.
Indeed.
Because you notice if you skip from one, you cannot do it.
Fall into another one. Yeah, I know.
But it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting when you read something, if you notice something, it's kind of cherry picking.
So you're starting to see that with
Yes.
these fallacies? That's the
Not
whole...
all the time.
No, sure, but good. That hopefully is what's going to happen with these things. I mean, it's not just for work in the diploma of English proficiency. These things, we do them because it's about critical thinking, that you might be in your workplace and somebody in a meeting argues, well, look, we've always done it this way, or, you know, what do the majority think? Doesn't necessarily mean that's what we should do. They might use a slippery slope argument, they may do overgeneralise, all sorts of things. And, you know, as professionals, we need to be sharp about this stuff so that then we can contribute to group decisions and make them most effective for the organisation we're in, for your own life, decision making, etc. For criticality of the media is just full of this stuff. And if we're going to be kind of sharp, reasonable, democratic citizens, contributing broadly to the society, you know, the sharper we are about this stuff, it does make things harder, definitely. Higher quality of anything is harder, isn't it? You want to make a shoe and you want to make a quick, crappy one, it's easy. You want to make a high quality one, more labour, more techniques, anything of high quality takes more work. Same with an argument.
When I was studying at the foundation course, one of the courses called critical literacy. It shows you how to critical think, like look at an essay or an article and look at it in a critical way.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful because, you know, as you said, that a lot of the media stuff could be biased, or some essays could be biased. So looking at a text in a critical way, it gives you perspective of both sides. It doesn't give you one point of view.
Yep.
Yeah, but a lot of the media is pretty much one point of view, bias or maybe some arguments, but yeah.
That's a good point about the media. Let me just redraw.
Because when I didn't do that course on critical literacy.
Was that at school or
no,
uni?
it was at uni essay foundation course. It's called critical literacy. When I did that, I learned a lot, and I learned how to look at articles, or it helps you a lot, because like what we're doing now, it helps you a lot, because for example, if you're doing an essay and then it makes you think of which sources to use. For example, peer-reviewed sources.
Yeah.
A lot of uni or TAFE recommend that, so that will help in looking at something that is more like, you know, scholarly or something like that.
Exactly.
So,
That's about ethos, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting the ethos
Yeah.
strong. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
before I did that course, I used to believe a lot of stuff in the media, and then when
Right.
I did that, it gave me the tool and knowledge of how to critical and a source like an article and use outlet, and also it gave me the tools of how to write a well-written essay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. This, you know, an essay is sort of, imagine a person kind of walking along, and just, I'm drawing this because there are certain metaphors, pitfalls. So imagine these are your fallacies: appeal to common belief, appeal to tradition, hasty generalisation, bias sample. You've got to walk from here to here to get your argument. You can easily fall down into a hole, a pit. Fall. There are lots of pitfalls. Yeah? Or another expression is like, it's a minefield. You know, different imagery here. These are mines, you know, the bombs under the ground. You step on them, bang, you know. It's a minefield. Absolutely. Arguments are like this, aren't they? And you know, one of these that goes bang can easily destroy your argument. Your argument is usually linked and one thing's dependent on the other. And a couple of these go off and the whole thing sort of collapses. It can be the most beautiful English, beautifully referenced, everything, but you've got these, you've got a problem. So, and it's a deep structural problem. They're not just like little problems with prepositions or something. It really affects the quality a lot. So this is why it's in the course. And it's not just for study, it's for your professional life as well. If you want to get up and present a paper at a conference or a professional development session, or you want to argue in a meeting, I don't mean argue, fight, I mean contribute critically, then if you've got all of these clear, you can move around them,
And it gives you a
and
different,
get there.
and it gives you a different perspective of the world. If you rely on the media for your source of information, that would give you a different perspective. Because, for example, if you just look at one side, but if you use that technique, you look at different sides. So, because, for example, a media would get a source that is true, that is not, it's true, but it's not 100% true, and they could add or remove stuff to it, so it couldn't
They
be
do.
authentic.
Yes.
So that will give you different perspective instead of just one point of view to 2 or 3 point of views.
Yeah, look, this is an important point, Ahmed, and we see a growing trend of media getting more and more. Over the years, we've seen media inject more and more, like you say, of emotion into stories. Why do they do it? Just like you're giving your oral presentation. You want to get people interested, you have a bit of emotion at the beginning. We've talked about this trick, haven't we? Okay, you've got a newspaper, you want people to buy it, you want people to watch the Channel 7 news, you've got to hook them and you keep them for half an hour, and then you stop every 6 minutes and you inject ads, and if you've got 1 million people watching, the price of that 30-second ad goes up, doesn't it? So commercial media's job, they don't really care about this very much. They care about getting most people watching that so that they can, inject the advertising and charge a lot for it. The main thing that does that for them is emotion, not evidence, not credibility. So the media has, over time, become increasingly focused on this. The commercial media, the ABC, for example, or other government groups or universities or whatever, they don't have to chase the dollars. There's not the same motivation there, is there? I mean, the ABC is very concerned about its reputation. That's the thing that motivates the ABC. It gets criticised by lots of political parties. You're biased, you're biased, They've got to prove continuously that they're using good, clear, logical argument, no fallacy, and they've got to keep credibility high. So, there's a real difference in media sources, and some media sources are focused on getting that, but not many. The majority are here. Others that are, a commercial decision again. If you're aiming at the educated professional middle class, who are well trained in this sort of thing, if you do a lot of that, they're going to turn off and stop visiting your website or going to your news, right? Or reading that paper. So there's a minority of media sources, even commercial ones, that will do that. I'm overgeneralising when I say all, because some have decided on a smaller market and they realise that people value that. Now, what your problem is, working out which media sources, as a rule, focus on this and which focus on that. I've helped you to some degree on the website, media, on the Moodle. In my view, and it's my view, and don't trust my view, go and look for yourself. Check out the alternate media sources. On a Monday, we'll go through that list in more detail, but start exploring it now if you want. You'll find generally more credible and reliable material there. You will notice I have no links at all to the Murdoch Press or Channel 7, 9 or 10, because they are absolutely deeply involved in that kind of formula.
I think he
continuously.
criticized, I can't pronounce it, criticized, like for example, he says some harsh comments, Rupert Murdoch. Yeah, he says harsh comments to the ABC, like very
Sure.
insulting comments to the ABC.
Yes.
He
Now-
he said something that